Greetings, Metal family. Jon here. Happy Wednesday. Coming to you every Wednesday now with some Big Four thrash drumming tips, some words of wisdom, just sharing with you my knowledge and experience from doing what I've done for essentially the last 3 decades, over 30 years now. So again, Big Four drumming has been my life since I started playing drums at 14 years old. And so I just feel it's important now to just pass this information on to you guys, and hopefully you get some knowledge out of it, and knowing that it's not an opinion, it's not theory, but it's actually backed by real world experience with Big Four thrash metal bands, right? So, but that all said, let's dive in. I wanted to talk about this week a subject on double bass that it's probably one of the biggest questions, the biggest challenges that people come up to me with, and that is, Jon, how do I get my weak foot to get as strong as my dominant foot? So your weak foot, your odd foot, you can even call it your hi-hat foot. For most of you watching, that's going to be your left foot. If you're a lefty like me, then it's going to be your right foot, okay? So I will say this, one of the first things that you can do to immediately improve your weak foot is just start using it more, you guys. It's incredible to me that I see so many drummers that will literally, and it's not any fault of their own, because they've relied on archaic, what I like to refer as archaic drum teachings that say when you play single kick, you will use your primary foot, right? When it's time for double bass, that's the time that you bring your foot over to hit that second kick drum. I disagree with that 100%. From my lens, from doing what I've done specifically with the bands that I've played with, I say bring that odd foot in during single kick drum pattern parts. Use it more. If you're doing think of like some awesome, simple, meaty, drum pattern. I'm trying to think of a song that we can all relate to, like an Igor Cavalera Sepultura, like a dun 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 dun, boo boo ba boo boo ba boo boo ba boo boo ba. That's all it's doing. Crash cymbal, not hi-hat accenting. So the hi-hat foot is not needed for the hi-hat on the cymbal, crashing, hitting the snare, boop boop bop. Why does that boop 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 bop boop boop bop? Why does that need to be just the right foot? Why not bring the left foot in? Use it. Use it. When I was on tour, it didn't matter if it was with Testament or Anthrax or Slayer. If there was a beat like that, I think it was mostly with Anthrax. I'm thinking of the song "Got the Time." Maybe it Got the Time, or maybe it was Antisocial. I don't think it was Got the Time, because Got the Time has a lot of accenting in it. But if I had a beat like that, I would just have fun with it. My bass drum pattern would be, you wouldn't know, because all you're hearing is the kick drum mix sound out front. How would you, unless you're seeing my legs come up, you will never know if it's my right kick, my left kick, my right and left kick. But back behind the kit during patterns like that, I would go left snare, right snare, left snare, right left snare, right snare, right snare, right left snare. I would just make shit up, and it would literally always come out. And whatever I made up, it was always boop boop, boop boop, da da ga da da ga, foot snare. But the foot, I was just having fun with it. Didn't matter. Why did it have to be, for me being a lefty, why did it have to be left, left? Well, that's the way that you're supposed to do it. Says who? Who are you listening to? I want to bring something up for you guys. Hold on a second. You hear this. I want you to remember, it was not too long ago. Think about this. For you kiddos out there, you may not even be aware of this. Not too long ago, this was not how you held the drumsticks. No, sir. This is how you held the drumsticks. And oh my God, can you imagine when the first couple of people tried to say, you know what, I think I want to play like this. Oh, no, no, no. What are you doing there? My first drum lesson was with a jazz drummer. And when he insisted, this old guy, he was like 70 years old. I was like 15 years old. He was 70. And I came in, he's like, no, that's not the way to, he literally, like, it was like forbidden for him, you know, have to play like this, hold the sticks like this. I'm like, I don't want to hold the sticks like this. Do you see any thrash metal drummer playing like this? Anyone? Like, I'm not knocking it, but what I'm saying is that a lot of people knocked this back in the day. A lot of people are going to knock or not agree with some of my methods of teaching. And that's okay. They can have their opinion. But my teachings on this are not based on opinion, and they're not based on theory. They're literally based on tour-tested results at the highest level. Not some House of Blues stuff going on here, not some band that I have to repeat 3 times because you're like, who? No. I have tested this for decades, so I know that it works. Okay, so use your odd foot during single kick drum patterns. Use it more. Do a single kick drum pattern if you're right-handed, with your left foot. Another method that you can use is a method that I refer to it as the Tommy Aldridge method, where, if you guys don't remember Tommy Aldridge, amazing drummer from Ozzy Osbourne, Whitesnake, incredible, like, just powerhouse drummer. Okay. And, but back in the early 80s, I learned something from him, and he was teaching that when he would do single kick drum pattern parts, he would actually play the single kick drum pattern as a double bass pattern. So what did he mean by that? Well, let's go back to the Igor beat that I was just doing not too long ago, that bop, 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 bop. For many of you, that would be right foot, snare, right foot, snare. Okay. If you're a lefty like me, left foot. All right. But Tommy, he's a right-handed player. He would go right, left snare. And a lot of the single kick drum patterns, he would alternate like that as a double bass type pattern. If the beat went bop, 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 he didn't go right, snare, right, snare. He went right, left, snare, left, right, left, snare. Okay? And it's really an incredible exercise to conserve energy. That's one of the first things I noticed about using that method, which I adopted wholeheartedly into my style. And when I first got on my first tour, where you're no longer playing drums, but you're performing drums. And in this case, it was Testament. That was my first tour, the Low Tour in 1994. Thrown right into, we were playing, it was easily an hour and 45 to an hour and 55, just depending on, how Chuck's voice was and how the crowd was reacting and all that, of course. But it would not be, it was very common for us to go out for 2 encores if the crowd was really going, like, oh dude, they're freaking going off. Let's go out and play another one. Right? Like they were just into it like that. And I, of course I was into it as well. It was awesome. But when you're playing like that, especially in those clubs that are just sweaty and hot, man, you got to learn to conserve energy. And by incorporating that Tommy Aldridge and basically evening out the energy in my legs for 90 minutes, as opposed to, if you think about a drummer that's just using their primary leg for most of the set, look at the uneven balance of energy they've been using on one side of their body from the other. So that was, again, a great technique that I would encourage you to try. But I also put that, I'm going to tie a little end to that, and with a warning. And the warning is this: beware of falling into the trap of your primary foot getting lazy because you're wanting to use your odd foot more often than perhaps you should, meaning when there's hi-hat work to be done. Or your primary foot just starts falling behind a little bit because you're using it so much for, you're using that double bass technique so much that it's not really getting any of the fast twitch stuff that it should be doing while you're doing hi-hat work. Okay. I hope that makes sense, because I fell into that trap. Again, and I discovered it on the Testament Low tour, my first tour. And there was a couple of songs on that tour, particularly off the Low record, where, John Tempesta did an amazing, phenomenal. If you guys haven't checked out the Low record, I encourage you to check it out. It's a great record. But what made it even extra special from my lens is that it was the first Testament record where, not knocking Louis Clemente. I mean, he was a really hardworking drummer, but his technical skills were nowhere near the level of John Tempesta's. And when John brought his technical skill and his drumming skill into the band, it just elevated it so much more, in my opinion. So, like I said, if you haven't had a chance to check that out, I encourage you to do so. But all the hi-hat accenting stuff that he's doing in there requires you to use a single kick, your primary kick. And my primary kick had gotten lazy because I was incorporating that Tommy Aldridge technique for so many years prior. And so I had to, at the end of that tour, I had to spend about a year to pick my primary foot back up to match and my hi-hat accenting back up. So it took about a year, but I got it back up to where it needed to be. But I just wanted to give that word of warning to you guys. Just beware the trap of your primary foot getting lazy. Okay. So listen, guys, I hope this helps you. Again, just to wrap it all up, how can you strengthen your odd foot, your weak foot, your hi-hat foot? Just start using it more. 2 ways that you can do it. Start incorporating it into single kick drum patterns where there's no hi-hat accenting. So open hi-hats, ride, crash cymbals, toms, foot's wide open to come right in and start working. The second way, Tommy Aldridge technique, play the single kick pattern as a double bass pattern. Okay. I hope that helps. Until next Wednesday, you guys, stay safe out there. And of course, hit hard, play fast, and as always, keep it heavy.